Hey, thanks in advance for attending this overview. My name is Russell Nakamura. I'm the Regional Sales Coordinator for Aflac in Calabasas. And as you can see here right now, I'm doing this from my office by myself with an iPhone camera. So hang with me. Hopefully we'll get through this together. I'm also the CEO of WellWorks Benefits, and we run Aflac's 2020 Summer Entrepreneurial Internship Program, or Everwell 2.0. You may be wondering why this interview is starting as a group presentation. Well, it's going to sound kind of weird, but it's a little bit like dating. Have you ever gotten dressed up in your nice clothes, driven out to meet someone, only to discover within the first 5 minutes of talking that this is a person you never want to see again? Well, job interviews are kind of similar. Just like we're meeting you to find if you're a good fit, we want to be sure that we're also an organization that you can see yourself working with and learning from through the course of a semester. Let's first start with Aflac. How many of you guys have had any experience with or prior knowledge of Aflac other than the duck? Well, Aflac is a world's leading provider of supplemental benefits or supplemental health insurance. Any of you guys know what that is? Well, neither did I. And that's part of why they created the duck, to establish a brand recognition, even if it's easily confused with something else. I remember when it happened in 1999. I was a senior in college, and back then the primary medium for advertising was television. And the duck commercials were on all the time. Even though the message was vague, you watched commercials, and even now, you still might wonder exactly what Aflac is. And the tagline of the commercial was, Aflac, ask about it at work. And back then, people went to work, they drove over to their company. Remember, internet wasn't the same back then, no telecommuting. And like a good consumer, they'd ask their HR manager about what they'd seen on TV. And meanwhile, 10,000 Aflac agents nationwide were calling companies saying, hey, we're Aflac. You know, the company with the duck. Has anyone asked about us at work? But here's the problem. The duck is 20 years old, and the new generation doesn't watch TV. Not with commercials, anyway. Ask yourself, does your generation care as much about Aflac's brand recognition? Think of it this way. If you could get car insurance from Geico, you know, the company with the gecko, but you could get the same insurance from Progressive, and Flo's going to save you $50 a month, would you be loyal to Geico just because you love the gecko? Let's take it a step further. Insurance is boring. It requires you to fill out and sign multiple page documents, and you used to have to actually sit down with a 55-year-old guy to explain it to you. You heard right. The average age of an Aflac agent is 55 years old. So where does that leave us? Let's talk about Everwell, Aflac's newest brand. You may not have heard of Everwell before, but it's here, and version 2.0 is going to be launched shortly here in the year 2020. What is Everwell? It's Aflac's web-based benefits platform. Now, that's a lot of tech jargon, but what it means is it's a service that allows businesses to enable benefits for their employees on the internet or through a mobile device. And why is this relevant? Well, to put it in context, did you know that the majority of employers in California are small, meaning that they have fewer than 50 employees? And of those companies, only about a third of them offer any benefits at all. That means 70% of small companies in California do not offer any benefits. Let me break that down a little bit more. In the US, more than half of all people get their health insurance through an employer or their spouse's employer. But in California, only a third of the majority employers offer benefits. Well, does that mean California companies are just a bunch of uncaring, evil business owners? Again, we're not talking about Starbucks, Target, or any other large employer. I think it's because California is the 5th largest economy in the world, and there are more small companies and more innovation happening in California than other states. And consequently, those small businesses are independent, maybe even starting out of someone's garage. And the companies with fewer than 50 employees aren't required by law to offer benefits, so they don't, because they think maybe it's too expensive, it's too complicated, or they don't have a dedicated HR department to handle it. This is why a web platform is so valuable to a small business who doesn't have the resources to manage a benefits program. You can see from this demo page, people can scroll down and choose Aflac products. They can also choose non-Aflac products. With a few clicks of a button, you can enroll in benefits and have premiums conveniently deducted through your paycheck. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Is Everwell the best web platform out there? No. And is it the only player in this space? Of course not. The top 3 providers of web-based benefits programs in this market are ADP, TriNet, and Zenefits. Now, out of curiosity, do any of you know who Zenefits is? Zenefits was the #1 valuation of a startup in 2013. Any of you guys have any idea who #2 was? Uber. Uber was #2. Just because to give you an idea of how much Zenefits was valued by investors when they saw the rollout of Obamacare, where everybody in the US was now going to have health insurance. Now, if you look at the web portals for Zenefits or TriNet or ADP, guess what? They also offer the ability for companies to allow employees to click and choose benefits with the convenience of payroll deduction. But Zenefits, TriNet, and ADP all require the company to contribute 50, sometimes 70% of the cost of the insurance. Now, in case you don't know how much health insurance costs, for a 30-year-old employee on a bronze plan, which happens to be the cheapest plan available with the highest deductible of about $6,000, that cost is going to be about $250 a month. Now, if the company is going to pay 70% of that, that equals $175 per month that the company is paying for this low plan. Of course, if you have 10 employees times 10, that equals $1,750 per month that the company is going to pay for, not including any administrative fees they tack on for processing. Everwell, powered by Aflac right now, is the only platform that offers a zero-cost option. That means employers can offer benefits to their employees and pay nothing. The cost instead is fully paid by the employee, but premiums are reduced because the insurance company charges a group rate when it's offered through a business. See, our competitors won't do this because those tech and payroll companies are big corporations. They have shareholders to pay and technical and overhead costs that they need to cover to support that web portal. So they require more money per transaction. But our clients don't care about that. Instead, Aflac regions operate under the independent agent model, which kind of emulates the old days of the Main Street insurance broker, where you got in your car and you drove down the street, hope you like my artwork, and you saw your insurance guy and you got to ask questions on a more personal basis. That's how it was for my dad when he ran his business, and that's how a lot of people still want their insurance agent to behave. There's no overhead costs that they need to recover to pay for the call center and pay for the web support and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we have Aflac as our $100 billion investor that's going to fund this platform and allow us to give it away for free. This is what we call a competitive advantage. Our clients are going to get valuable software just like they would through our competition. But instead of having to deal with an 800 number or using a chatbot for customer service, they're going to get the Main Street broker experience that they remember and yearn for that our competition can't replicate. Okay, so let's get to the internship. And remember what I said about dating? This has got to be a good fit for you. This is an entrepreneurial internship, which means it's not something where you're just going to sit around and make copies or coffee or go get some donuts. This is something a little bit more hands-on. So I'll explain how it works. If you're familiar with insurance or like an other financial service industry, the revenue is going to be generated by transactions as well as a valuation of a book. Insurance pays commission on the initial sale of a policy. Aflac products pay a baseline of 40%, and group medical pays a baseline of 5%. Aflac also pays a renewal if the policyholder continues paying their premium as long as the policy remains in force. And if you think about it, people don't switch that often. Insurance stays on the books. I mean, how often have you switched your car insurance? Now, I know commissions is a dirty word for a lot of industries, but this is how most sales works, and it's also how people get wealthy in this particular industry. It's not for everybody, and that's also why not everybody's an entrepreneur. Also, not everybody's rich. Now, we're looking for 10 entrepreneurial interns to use this model and help launch Everwell 2.0 in the LA market. Now, if you're wondering if this is the right fit for you, look, I feel you. But think about this. Now, if you're working 10 hours a week at the USC bookstore for $13 an hour times 13 weeks, you're going to be earning, if you do the math, $1,690, right? Well, of course, you're going to pay some taxes on that. So let's call it even $1,200 take home that you're going to get from this particular job. Now, if you did the program that is a little bit riskier. It's the entrepreneurship program. If you close one account with 10 people, here's how we do the calculation. 10 people, usually about 70% of people in that company are going to participate in some kind of benefit, of which they're going to spend about $22 per paycheck, which equates to about $600 a year in premiums. I know that's a lot of math, but this is going to equate to $4,200 in premiums annualized that is produced under selling one account. Now, let's just kind of do the math on the commissions on that. On a 40% commission structure, this is going to pay 40% of $4,200 is $1,680. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, I make just about the same amount of money if I were working at the USC bookstore for $13 an hour and 10 hours a week for 13 weeks. That's how employees think. They're going to say, well, this is going to be about the same. But the entrepreneurs in the room are going to say, how many times can I close an account in 13 weeks? And that's the main difference about people who take entrepreneurship and become wealthy versus the employee that's just going to take their standard pay. You may be thinking, well, I'm too young, I'm too inexperienced to do any of this, but keep in mind, the top intern who did this program in 2017 closed 8 accounts and wrote over $25,000 in premiums. He easily took home 10 grand. And guess what? He was a USC student and he was a freshman. This is meant to be a 12-week experience. The first 3 weeks are training, which includes a 4-day online curriculum by our Aflac corporate trainer. You're going to be connected with a sales coordinator, which is either Rosario or Gabrielle, to learn how to use our prospecting tools and to curate sales leads and make appointments. By the end of 3 weeks, you're going to be expected to create a marketing plan. If you're a business major, you likely already did this in a class project. You got to find a target customer, you got to identify why you chose them, how much revenue you're going to make, and what activities you're going to do to earn that money. And then you're going to pitch that plan to your coordinator and me by the end of the 3rd week. The next 5 weeks is going to be your marketing rollout, the rollout of your initiative. You follow the steps of your plan to generate sales. Now this is going to require 15 to 20 hours a week, of which a minimum of 10 hours is going to be dedicated to solid marketing activity by email, social media, and phone. The last 4 weeks, well, this is what I call tie down. It's what Mad Men guys, if you're a Mad Men fan, this is what those guys used to do back in the 50s, taking customers on their boats or go golfing or whatever. Except we do this with some allocated funds from Aflac, and we use it to court and woo prospective clients to get them to do business with us. Each summer, our interns also naturally get to know each other, and with social distancing, this might look a little different, but in years past, everyone got together and did social events like weekly karaoke or maybe trips to Korean barbecue. Finally, still on that point of making sure we're a good fit, there are 2 additional requirements to move forward. The first one is the pre-licensing course, which is a 32-hour online course. It's entirely online, there's no classroom involved. The second piece is the state exam, which is a 100-question multiple choice test. Now, Aflac's going to require that that pre-licensing course is completed with a minimum 70% completion, and your test is scheduled prior to starting that virtual sales curriculum. And this might all sound daunting, but the pre-licensing course, it just requires a completion. It's like traffic school. You got to be logged in for a full 32 hours and pass the final exam. So if you're holed up in quarantine, now's the time to do it. Now that pre-licensing course does normally cost $199, but right now, Aflac is funding the cost of that course if you can commit to finishing 70% of it by the corporate training start date of May 12th. So at the end of this whole experience, you're going to walk away with professional sales experience from a Fortune 500 company, as well as a professional license you can take with you for any job after graduation. And the most important piece is this: you're going to build your resume. Now, most college resumes, no offense, they all look exactly the same. Maybe start with your name, your school, or GPA, maybe a couple jobs you had like lifeguarding or maybe working at the USC bookstore, right? What employers look for the most is going to be real experience.
And what you're going to get to put here at the top of your resume is working for a renowned company, listing actual sales metrics that you produced, and maybe even an endorsement from one of those clients that you helped create during your summer internships. So what's next? If you think this internship could be for you, click on the link embedded in the email to schedule a second interview with a recruiting rep to learn the details about how to move forward. You'll be given instructions on how to register for pre-licensing, and then you'll have 60 days to finish that course to start in either our May, June, or July entry dates. We're only going to take 10 interns this summer, and to get an offer, you have to demonstrate that you're registered and are making progress in that pre-licensing program. We'll respond within 10 days after you've enrolled and are making progress to offer you a spot. So take a look at some of the testimonial videos, read up on my blog, and consider whether you think this will be a good fit for you this summer. We look forward to hearing from the best of you.